From my house to yours, welcome to EMS at Sea Level. I am joined by my old friend Dave Evans, co-founder and CEO of Fictiv. Dave, it's been a while. We spent a lot of time during COVID in that supply chain bunker together here on Zoom.
Well, it's great to have me back. I wish we could say we were out of the bunker, but maybe we're in another bunker now, and in the floor room behind your screen there behind you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
great to connect again.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy time, and I really wanted to explore where the supply chain has gone. I've spoken to so many people over the last couple of years about what's been going on in the supply chain and the idea that we're at the tail end of a bullwhip effect, and we're getting to that point of normality. But it
Hmm.
feels like we kind of started with a trade war. We got hit with the pandemic big style. We've had the most recent component shortages that have really had a big impact. Now we've got economic disruption, and it feels like whatever disruption we plan for, there's one we didn't expect around the corner. You're a business that's kind of forged in the fire of disruption anyway. So
Yeah.
this is kind of how you guys roll. How do you see it? And do you think there is a return to the normal we had before, or a different
Yeah.
normal? Or are we just sailing choppy
This
seas from here on in?
this is the age-old question that hasn't been stopped being asked, I
Mm,
think, in the last three and a half years, anyways. Our point of view and lens on this is our job is obviously to simplify sourcing, but we really focus on the mechanical aspects of supply chain,
mm,
and really in the bookends of production. So in the NPD, new product development, as well as
yeah.
in kind of the aftermarket or MRO. And so from our point of view, it's really how do you help companies weather the storm, if you will,
Mm,
in this age. And I think you stated it well. And so I'll respond back with, we are definitely in a when is the next thing going to happen mode, not if it's going to happen.
yeah.
And so increasingly so, I think that you start with trade wars, China, US, then you have pandemics, then we have shipping shortages, chip shortages, then we have, massive war in Europe. Now we have the latest of banking failures happening here in the
Mm,
US, and all of these things are causing major disruptions. And I think that for executives that are watching this, that have lived through this, every function, C-level, boardroom is all saying, what's my plan B, C, and D for supply
mm,
chain to ensure that you are going to be able to book revenue, or recognize that revenue to make and hit customer demand, and
mm.
that. And so I think that I don't want to say it's a bumpy ride all the way home, but I think we're in a mode where every leader should be saying, in this when moment, when's the next one going to happen? How
Yeah.
robust are your systems? Are you really not just thinking about plan A, but you have multiple of simulations that you've run? That's definitely shaped our business for how we run
Mm.
supply chains for companies. But I think our customers are demanding even more of companies like Fictiv for how we help digitize, we help add
Yeah.
resiliency to their systems.
Yeah, and I think when I look at the whole digital transformation element of it, I think one of the key elements there is having that visibility and being able to run simulations and different scenarios, and I think that's hugely important. Let's just unpack some of the impact of the disruptions, and you mentioned the war in Europe. Um, I don't know. I've got a sense that people's view on globalization is changing a little bit at the moment. You've got the Chips Act and different things happening in Europe as well as the US. So let's look at geopolitics first. During the journey of Fictiv, geopolitics and the global supply chain has had a big impact on where you're manufacturing things for your customers. Talk me through how that's changed over the last 2 or 3 years. I know you've developed other locations during that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are a classic Silicon Valley technology company that's venture backed. We've raised
Mm,
$200 million around this. And so we come from roots of technology in Silicon Valley, and our supply chain that we initially built up was actually initially just in the Bay Area. So in the San Francisco greater area, we moved to California, then we expanded out across nationally across the US. We then expanded into China, which I think is the next natural place as you're running supply chains for your company. And we've continued to add new locations, India being, our most recent, and there's several more that are coming on the heels of that in the coming months here that we'll be announcing. And I think so. If you look at this, we're in a state where I'll go back to those simulations where companies, are looking at this triangle: speed, quality, and price. And your supply chains are making decisions based upon a prioritization in this triangle here. And so it's not a binary decision. It's not saying I'm going to go all in on Vietnam, I'm going to go all in on China. I think supply chains are more sophisticated than that now. And they are saying that I need a diversification strategy. And as I look across this triangle: speed, quality, price, what am I optimizing for at any given time? I think today I was reading in the news that almost 7% of all devices for Apple are now made in India in the last fiscal year. 7%, that's a massive company that was built on Foxconn, designed in Cupertino, manufactured in China, and that shift is starting to happen for even the largest volume producer of goods in Apple with consumer products. We saw these same things happen with big industrials like Honeywell, who's one of our customers, where they had a product that had a 7-month lead time. It was this APU, an auxiliary power unit. So this turns a plane's power on and off the APU. And their classic lead time for this, with their supply chain they were running, was 7 months. And the CEO at the time, Mike Madsen, said, I can't wait 7 months. My customers need a fix to this problem today. It can't be 7 months. And so they came to Fictiv and they said, hey, geopolitically, how can we do this? They were optimizing for speed in this case. And we ended up doing a domestic manufacturing solution for them that went from 7 months down to 5 weeks. So we delivered the solution for that APU in 5 weeks, so just over a month. And so reduced all the shortage that they had or time to delivery. But I think in that case with Honeywell on this APU, they wanted to optimize for speed in this case. I think what you're getting at, Philip, is that there are cases where you want to optimize for geopolitical risk, or you're optimizing for price. And that truly involves a globally minded supply chain. And I think, unfortunately, not everybody's looking around the corner on this vector today.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you talk about the triangle and the different elements. And the bottom line is you're optimizing for one, but you've got to take care of all three. So you've got to be aware of that. And I think, to me, that's been really interesting in the last 2 years as we've shifted from maybe a just-in-time approach to more of a just-in-case approach, and supply chain security has become more and more important. When your customers come to you and they're looking at the kind of the geographical spread of their supply chain and your supply chain, as a result, what are they saying? What are the pressures? Are they taking a kind of an ally shoring, friend shoring approach? Are they taking a what's the right solution for my product approach? Are they saying we chase low cost labor for too long, we need to have shorter supply chains? What are the priorities, or are they all of the above?
Yeah, I think that we definitely see all the above. More secular trends are, there's obviously a lot of reshoring that's being focused on here in the United States. We've had the CHIPS Act, we had the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that are helping to push more chip manufacturing as well as domestic manufacturing in the United States. So we're definitely seeing a lot of desire in a US geography of how we push work back here to the US. But I think what's really important, especially for a lot of the viewers listening to this, is your supply chain's complex. I have my electrical components, I have my wiring harnesses, I have my mechanicals. And at any given point, a $10 component, whether it's plastics, it's silicon, it's wherever, can be a line down situation. And so I think that, the more secular trend I would push towards is we are seeing more dual and triple source requests come in. Maybe that's because of our model that we run a distributed network. We don't own machines. We find factories that are idle, have extra capacity. And so we've built a system where redundancy is built in for the business model. That's what the technology is really good at. But I think that the secular trend we've seen is that folks are really trying to add redundancy to any of those priorities that you talked about, whether it's a geopolitical redundancy, whether it's a quality or a shortage, how much do I have, whether I'm moving off a JIT, a just in time, to a more inventory based strategy. As I shift to say that inventory based strategy, I actually want to be feeding it with a dual or triple source if I can optimize for cost there. And these are definitely trends we see across transportation, across medical, across consumer. So it's not even industry specific. We're seeing it more secularly as the time and now.
Yeah, and I think that's really relevant in terms of that it is cross industry. I think we look in the past at kind of high reliability industries that are more focused on price and perhaps more consumer driven, but they all have the same demand for that much more digitally transformed supply chain that gives them the not just agility, but actually makes them more robust than they have been in the past. Talk me through. It's been a little while before since we've touched base. Talk me through some of the technical developments within fictiv and how the platforms developed, for example, in the last 12 months, and how your realization that we're in a permanently disrupted supply chain has impacted that product life cycle.
Yeah, I think the first wave of technology that we really brought to market was to digitize a lot of the processes which were manual or offline today. So look at a quotation process that primarily was done over email, and just getting a price took weeks, and now you can get a price, within seconds, minutes at fictiv. We then did the same thing in DFM, so design for manufacturing. We went from an offline process in PowerPoints to really digitizing and being able to see all this information at your fingertips. After that, we really, we saw a lot of need for visibility, so really shining a light on this, and we launched what we call our transparency product that really helps people. We kind of call it the Domino's Pizza Tracker, but it allows people to see where's your product. In the production stages, you can see photos, quality information before it ever ships. That was a really important thing to give visibility. And so in the last couple of years, that brings us maybe to pandemic era, we saw folks wanting to do two things that I would say are big changes for us. One is they wanted more simulations done because they were looking to see, if I built here, what's my price and lead time? Or if I built here, what's my price and lead time? Or if I took off, this type of post-processing or this finishing, okay, well, what does that do to my price and lead time? So our customers were using our tool almost to build out scenarios for them. And so we invested in a lot of technology that helps them optimize for, say, lead time, or optimize for cost. We call this LTO, lead time optimizer. You can think about this if you wanted to fly to, say, Europe. You can go to Kayak or Expedia or Google, and you can start playing around with all these scenarios. I fly United, I fly Delta, I fly Air Australia, whatever it might be, and you can see these permutations. So we've built out a lot of work to see better visibility at your fingertips on the simulations. And I think that's a big trend in this. The second trend is we launched what we call our premium product, which allows people to go from a single user that's doing these simulations to multiple stakeholders on the same platform seeing the same information. And so I think the first wave of technology was take offline processes and digitize them. But that's at a single user, a single user is emailing, now a single user can do that. And the next wave we saw is companies adopted more and more technology more stakeholders started coming in the game. I have quality, I got logistics, I have procurement, I have engineering. And so it wasn't enough just to have a single person or single user actually interacting with the digital information. We saw that digital information get taken offline, meetings happen, goes back into the digital tool. So we built and launched what we call our premium product, which allows teams to interact with these simulations. And so rather than running your stand up, your scrum meeting, your status meeting in an offline way, teams are pulling up fictiv.com in their stand up meetings and their status meetings and say, look, this build number, it's in production, it's on time. This one has a manufacturing question around a tolerance. We need to resolve it. This one is shipping, it's clearing customs today, and the quality information matches everything that I need. It'll arrive on Friday. So now you have these teams that are running really this agility based system on the technology versus single users. I think this is a classic case of teams demanding more out of the you kind of give a moose a muffin and want a glass of milk, is what my daughter would say. And so we're having to continuously feed our customers with better tools to run their business.
Yeah, I think that's critical. It's curious, pre-pandemic, everybody was talking about digital transformation and how it would give us this glass factory where we could see into the factory and we could see exactly what's happening. Since we've been in the depths of the pandemic and the component shortages post-pandemic, that discussion has completely gone, and the discussion has been entirely about a glass pipeline, about this idea of having the visibility up and down the supply chain. It's almost like when I look at particularly the electronic manufacturing services industry, they don't care how it's made, because that's not what's stopping them get stuff out the door. What's stopping them get stuff out the door is issues in the supply chain, and blockage in the supply chain of one part might mean I can't ship a $50,000 car or a $200,000 robot or something of that nature. So it becomes more critical. What it also means in terms of those scenarios is it's having a huge impact on business, because there's a huge amount of cash tied up in inventory that shouldn't be. So when I look at it as an enterprise point of view, as you say, you've got those teams coming together. That includes everybody from the people managing inventory and finance and all those. It needs to be a very holistic, very data-driven tool.
Yes, and I think I love your glass factory to glass pipeline. It's like, okay, Grace, your factory is glass and I can see all the issues now, but how do you resolve those issues? I think it's, the first wave of the digital transformation was visibility or digitizing it.
Data.
And the second wave is now like, okay, I got the data. How am I going to action that? And every C-level that's, watching this is saying, okay, great. Data without action is, okay, you've told me there's a problem, but I'm still stuck here with millions of dollars on the line. And so, I think that's probably the next secular trend we'll see, is, okay, you give me visibility to my factory in Mexico and the supply chain. Where's my raw materials coming from? What if I change this cost component? If I swapped out this component, what does that do to my BOM? I think it's really these simulations that companies are looking for.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting there is you can actually tag the whole ESG element in there as well. And when you start to really trace a supply chain, you can really see where not just the risks are in that supply chain in terms of the supply chain failing itself, but the risks in that supply chain in exposing a business to bad actors or to risky ethical procedures in that supply chain. That becomes absolutely critical.
Yeah, we've run our state of manufacturing report for, I think we're on our 8th year now. It's an annual survey that's, all around what's going on, kind of state of the union. And sustainability, has just been up and to the right as like a demand. So even though these are technical buyers, it's a B2B environment, you're seeing more and more executives have pressure, but not just pressure from corporate. It's actually the social, almost consumer behavior that they want to drive some element of ESG within their supply chain. And they're kind of like, what do I do here? And so I think, we do carbon credits, and people can help offset the carbons they're doing when they're shipping. And we've added a lot of sustainability elements. I think there's a lot more to do, or that we'd love to. And then most of that's being driven by our customers. And it's
Yeah.
probably another big trend that folks want to know: what's the social responsibility of this factory we're working for? What's the sustainability elements or the environmental impact? How is this going to dictate governance or these things? So it definitely ties all into what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're very important elements. And again, it's that visibility and that data up and down the supply chain that will allow us to properly measure that. And I think socially minded consumers care about that, and that's being pushed through the supply chain. Last question as we wrap up, Dave. Just give me your overview on what you see happening in the supply chain in the next 12 months, and maybe what's going to be happening at Fictiv in that same time frame.
Yeah, I would say while we're seeing all this reshoring actually happening, companies wanting to be produced here, what I predict and what I would push to all of your viewers and listeners is there will be a rebound here. Folks might want to be coming back in and reshoring, but globalization is not going away, and you need the resiliency. If we're in a when moment, not an if moment, after you reshore, if that becomes your strategy, at some point you're going to break wherever you reshored that to, and you're going to be looking back out into different areas to drive speed, quality, price in your triangle. And so ensuring you have a plan B, C, D in this, and that you aren't just reshoring because it's the popular reason, but you're optimizing for one of those elements in the triangle, and that you have backup plans. I think that's what's going to be critical in the next 12 months. The other thing is, at least in the US markets, there's a lot of turmoil from a financial standpoint. And so I'd say in the next 12 months, as you look at supply chain, what do you have in inventory? What is your, interest rates are raising? So what's your cash outlay or consumption based upon this? We'll continue to see more pressure on the financial aspect of supply chain in the next 12 months, and how you are building strategies to optimize for cash flow, maybe more so than in a low interest rate environment. So as we move to a higher interest rate environment, pressures on price, one of that part of the triangle, price more around cash consumption, cash cycles. This will become increasingly important term during any negotiations to understand. Manufacturers don't want to be banks. They don't want to carry the risk of their customers anymore. And in low interest rates, that might have been true. I predict that this will be a point of hot topic in the coming quarters ahead in the environment that we're seeing today.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think what's really interesting, you talk about plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. I think what you have to add onto having those plan scenarios is the speed to switch. And I think one of the things business models like Fictiv offer is that speed to switch. You're not just showing the potential of that scenario. You're saying, we've done the DFM on the fly. We know which factories this can go in, and we have that speed to switch when you need it. And I think that's that's an absolutely critical part of the business model. And there's no point in having a glass pipeline if you look in the pipeline and there's a blockage and you can't fix it. You need to be able to divert and do something else.
Look, Fictiv was built to help unlock the creative potential of all people. We want to help get to Mars, build surgical robots, help build EVs, help build the energy system of the future. And so I think if we are going to have our part in unlocking creativity in people, we need to help give tools to help them make decisions in that glass pipeline. And that can be financial, that can be quality, that can be geopolitical. That's our role. And so we are a technology company built from the ground up to be digital, and we'd love to, I think, help any companies along their journey to see this as well. So appreciate the time here today, and would love to follow up with anybody that's listening to help see how we can help you all create.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's a really important point. And sometimes, Dave, we spend our time down in the minutiae worrying about the supply chain. It's nice to look up and look at the awesome products that are being created using this technology and
100%.
in the manufacturing industry. Great to talk to you, my friend. Look forward to chatting again soon, and all the best going forward. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Great.